At exactly 02:17:43 UTC, Earth moved 3 seconds into the future. No one felt it happen. No alarms rang, no skies changed color. But somewhere deep beneath the Swiss Alps, an atomic clock recorded something impossible. It ticked 3 seconds ahead. At first, engineers assumed a calibration fault. Atomic clocks are the most precise machines ever built, accurate to 1 second over millions of years. A 3-second error wasn't just unlikely, it was physically impossible. Then another clock confirmed it. This one in Japan, then another in California. Within minutes, timekeeping centers across the planet reported the same anomaly. Their clocks were synchronized perfectly with each other, but out of sync with reality. Satellites passing overhead arrived early. GPS positioning drifted by several meters. Financial trading systems executed transactions before orders were officially placed. Time itself appeared to be running ahead of events. Scientists called it a desynchronization cascade. To the public, it was framed as a temporary technical glitch. Behind closed doors, panic set in. Because when physicists ran simulations, they discovered something terrifying. Earth hadn't sped up. Instead, a small region of spacetime surrounding the planet had shifted forward, like a bubble slipping ahead on the timeline. For 3 seconds, Earth was no longer fully present in the now. It was partially elsewhere. Astronomers examined cosmic reference points, pulsars, quasars, deep space signals, and confirmed the worst-case scenario. The universe's clock hadn't moved, only Earth's had. This ruled out solar activity. It ruled out relativistic effects. It ruled out every known natural cause. There was only one remaining explanation. Something had interacted with Earth's timeline directly. Then came the recordings. Across the world, security cameras captured subtle anomalies. People beginning movements before deciding to move. Birds taking flight milliseconds before the sound that startled them. Voices echoing before mouths opened. Reality wasn't lagging. Reality was being previewed. At 2:17:46 UTC, exactly 3 seconds after the shift, everything snapped back. Clocks realigned, systems stabilized, the world carried on. But scientists were left with a chilling realization. If Earth could slip 3 seconds into the future once, it could happen again. And next time it might not return, because something had tested the boundary of time, and Earth had responded. By sunrise, scientists realized the anomaly wasn't fading, it was stabilizing. Across the globe, shadows continued behaving incorrectly. Not randomly, but consistently wrong. The delay between object and shadow had become measurable, predictable, repeatable. That terrified physicists more than chaos ever could. At CERN, researchers fed the data into quantum light models. At NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, engineers overlaid shadow distortions with satellite telemetry. At observatories in Japan, AI systems were asked a simple question. If this is not an error, what is it? The answer came from an unexpected place. A climate satellite launched years earlier and long forgotten, began transmitting corrupted files. Packets no one had requested, from a subsystem no one had activated. Inside those packets was not imagery. It was time-indexed light data, a projection of how light would behave around Earth 3 days from now. At first, scientists assumed a timestamp glitch. Then they compared it with reality. The shadow distortions happening now matched the satellite's future projections with terrifying precision. Earth's shadows weren't malfunctioning, they were pre-rendering, as if the planet's lighting engine was loading something in advance. By mid-morning, governments quietly classified the event. Public explanations blamed atmospheric refraction, sensor errors, and viral hoaxes. But inside secured facilities, a darker realization took hold. Light was behaving as if Earth had already undergone a change that hadn't happened yet. And the change was not subtle. The future shadow data showed something massive. A distortion so large it affected the entire planet's light cone, the invisible shadow Earth casts into space. In the projected data, that shadow bent sharply, then fractured, as if Earth's presence itself was altered. Meanwhile, ordinary people began noticing something even more disturbing. Shadows were no longer passive, they reacted. In Rome, a woman stepped backward. Her shadow stepped forward. In Mumbai, streetlights cast shadows that leaned toward moving crowds. In New York, a time-lapse video showed shadows slowly rotating overnight, while buildings remained still. The internet erupted, but the most chilling discovery came that evening. A physicist in Helsinki noticed a pattern in the shadow delays, a rhythm hidden beneath the chaos. When converted into numbers, then into binary, the data formed structured sequences. Not noise, not randomness, information. And embedded deep within that information was a marker scientists recognized instantly. A temporal signature. The kind only produced by systems designed to send data across time. The impossible conclusion was now unavoidable. Earth wasn't losing its shadow. It was receiving instructions from a version of reality that had already moved on. And whatever future sent this message, did so because something had gone catastrophically wrong. The first physical proof arrived from orbit. At 0317 UTC, Earth-observing satellites began recording inconsistencies in reflected sunlight. Not errors, not glitches, but patterns. Light bouncing off oceans returned slightly delayed. Light from deserts came back altered in frequency. Urban areas reflected light that carried structure, as if the photons themselves had been modified before reaching Earth. Physicists froze when they saw it. Light does not arrive pre-altered. It reflects, it scatters, it disperses. But this light behaved as if it had already passed through Earth once before. That's when a researcher in Kyoto made a connection no one else wanted to say out loud. The altered photons matched predictive models of Earth's atmosphere. 50 years in the future. Not speculation, not extrapolation. Exact chemical ratios, exact aerosol density, exact magnetic interference patterns. It was a mirror, not of the present, but of what Earth was becoming. And the mirror was arriving early. Then came the images. High-altitude telescopes captured something even more disturbing near the planet's night-side boundary. The Terminator line where day meets night. A faint duplicate silhouette, Earth twice. One solid, one translucent. Perfectly overlapping, except for a slight offset like a ghost lagging behind reality. The second outline pulsed once every 11 seconds. The same interval detected earlier in the shadow anomaly. A heartbeat. Across the globe, sensitive instruments began reacting. Atomic clocks drifted out of sync by nanoseconds, not randomly but in coordinated clusters. GPS systems corrected positions that hadn't changed. Gravitational wave detectors picked up a low-amplitude signal, local to Earth. Something was co-located with the planet. Not an object, not a craft. A state aversion. Then the data that ended all debate. Deep space radio telescopes intercepted a narrowband transmission. Not from space, but from Earth's own orbital position. The signal was impossibly clean. No noise, no distortion, no degradation. And it was repeating only one thing. A sequence, a timestamp, a date. It matched no known calendar, until someone converted it. The timestamp corresponded to Earth's future midnight, exactly 52 years from now. The message wasn't long. It wasn't emotional, it wasn't spoken. It was mathematical. A compression of planetary data, climate metrics, magnetic stability, biosphere thresholds, and one final variable that chilled every room it was decoded in. A survival probability not for humanity, for Earth itself, and it was falling. The implication was unavoidable now. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a cosmic anomaly. Earth wasn't observing the future. The future was reaching back. And whatever version of Earth sent the message didn't have much time left. By the third day, the anomaly was no longer subtle. Time wasn't just running ahead, it was resisting correction. Global atomic clocks were reset again, forcibly synchronized to the same reference point. For exactly 2 minutes, everything appeared normal. Then the leak returned. 3 seconds. Everywhere, but this time something had changed. The future wasn't merely arriving early. It was leaving traces. High-speed cameras began capturing frames that shouldn't exist. People finishing movements before starting them. Cars braking before drivers reacted. Birds changing direction before a sound startled them. In one laboratory, a glass shattered, and then reassembled itself in reverse footage, before shattering again correctly. Causality was bending, not breaking. Bending neuroscientists reported something even more disturbing. Human reaction times were improving overnight, not by training, not by adaptation, but by anticipation. EEG scans revealed microspikes of neural activity occurring before sensory input reached the brain, as if the mind was briefly consulting a future version of itself. Doctors called it impossible, but patients described the same sensation using the same words. It feels like remembering something that hasn't happened yet. Meanwhile, satellite data uncovered a pattern no one expected. The time offset wasn't random, it was directional. Earth's future leak was strongest along a moving band across the planet, a narrow temporal corridor sweeping westward at a precise speed. The same speed as Earth's rotation. The implication was chilling. The planet itself was generating the anomaly. Not the sun, not deep space, not a cosmic event. Earth's timeline was slipping, just slightly, ahead of the universe around it. Physicists proposed a radical hypothesis. What if time isn't universal? What if each massive system carries its own temporal inertia, and Earth had crossed a threshold? A threshold where its internal processes were now outrunning the cosmic clock. But why now? The answer came from deep beneath the surface. Seismic instruments detected faint rhythmic pulses rising from the planet's core. Not vibrations, but temporal echoes. Patterns repeating before they fully occurred. Earth wasn't reacting to the future, it was broadcasting it. And then, at exactly 0217 UTC, the leak expanded. Not 3 seconds, 7. For one terrifying moment, entire regions experienced events before the present caught up. Emergency calls were logged for disasters that hadn't happened yet. Traffic systems rerouted vehicles away from accidents that technically did not exist. And when the present finally arrived, every predicted event occurred exactly as forecast. Perfectly, the future was no longer a possibility. It was a preview, and Earth had become the screen. Scientists realized too late what this meant. If the planet could see its future, then something else could see it too. The anomaly did not grow louder. It grew closer. At 0317 UTC, atomic clocks around the world stopped disagreeing. For the first time since the future leak began, every clock, from satellites to laboratory vaults, aligned perfectly. Zero offset, zero drift, zero explanation. For 3 seconds, Earth existed in absolute temporal harmony, and then the data changed direction. Instead of clocks running ahead, they began reporting timestamps that had not happened yet. Not predictions, not simulations, but recorded events stamped with verification markers impossible to fake. Seismic stations logged tremors scheduled for the next hour. Weather satellites received images of storms that had not formed. Emergency systems flagged accidents that had not occurred. And then the most disturbing file arrived, a global broadcast packet, identical in structure across every monitoring system, containing a message labeled only, "Temporal acknowledgement received." No origin, no transmission medium, no sender. Inside was a single sequence, a compressed visualization of Earth, not as it was, but as it would be. Cities glowing brighter than today, coastlines altered, atmospheric layers thinner, reorganized. Orbital debris cleared, signals looping backward into deep space. It was not utopian, it was stable. Scientists realized something horrifying and profound. The future was not warning the present. The future was correcting it. The 3-second leak was not an error. It was a synchronization handshake. Earth's timeline had drifted off its optimal trajectory, and a later version of humanity, or something built by it, had reached backward just far enough to realign causality. Not to change history, but to nudge probability. As the realization spread, the anomaly collapsed. Atomic clocks snapped back to normal behavior. Satellites returned to real-time data streams. The future timestamps vanished, but the damage and/or gift remained. Because buried deep within the corrected systems were microscopic adjustments, revised decay constants, altered error tolerances, slightly shifted physical thresholds. The laws of nature had not been broken, they had been patched. In the weeks that followed, scientists noticed subtle changes. Certain disasters never happened. Certain experiments succeeded unexpectedly. Certain global failures simply did not occur. Humanity never officially acknowledged what had happened. No announcements, no explanations. Only one quiet phrase appeared briefly in an internal scientific memo before being erased. Temporal integrity restored. Observer timeline accepted. The universe moved on, but time had left behind a message, not spoken, not written, but embedded into reality itself. A reminder, the future is not waiting for us. It is watching, and sometimes it reaches back, just long enough to make sure we arrive.